Hello, my name is David Anthony. Welcome to my presentation of the Once and Future Auteur. In 1954, Francois Truffaut published A Certain Tendency in French Cinema in Courriers de Cinéma, which proposed the revolutionary notion that the director is the true author of a given film, an idea that has thoroughly permeated film culture by this point. This concept spread through the French and European film community and was picked up by New York critic Andrew Sarris. He brought the term to the US and described auteurism as the idea that the director is the author of a film, a person who gives it any distinctive quality. Sarris explained the three requirements of the auteur. First, the auteur theory is the technical competence of a director as a criterion of value. Second, the auteur's personality must be expressed in his work, so that over a group of films a director must exhibit certain recurrent characteristics of style which serve as his signature. And finally, the film must express an interior meaning, which is extrapolated from the tension between the director's personality and his material. My first experiences in film criticism was watching the lighthearted banter and occasional heated discussion between Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel on their weekly half-hour discussion of current films, which ran under various titles from 1977 to 1999. Historian Anthony Slide commented on the early attempts at film criticism, saying that film reviewing, like the industry it represented, was in its infancy in those years. What passed for a review then might not be considered a review by the standards of the teens or 20s. And Jerry Roberts, in his book, The Complete History of American Film Criticism, cites the founding of Variety in 1905 and the Moving Picture World of 1907 as guideposts on the trail of film criticism. One of the pivotal moments in film criticism might be found in Haywood Brown's review of D.W. Griffith's Intolerance. In his New York Tribune column, Brown pronounced Griffin to be an immature philosopher, a wrong-headed sociologist, a hazy theologian, a flamboyant historian, but a great movie man. Some might argue over Griffith's standing as the first true auteur. The Internet Media Database, or IMDb, leaves Griffith off their list of auteur directors while honoring his contemporaries like Sergei M. Eisenstein and Fritz Lang. The LA Times gives Griffith auteur status for his groundbreaking techniques, while placing him next to Leni Riefenstahl as a propagandist. It's important to remember that the term auteur is being used and projected back to recognize directors from earlier times, and that term was not in use in the early years. By the 1930s, a new candidate for auteur arose, the studio system itself. Fortune magazine laid out an argument for the studio as an auteur, saying that MGM is neither one man nor a collection of men, it is a corporation. But the moving pictures have been born and bred not of men but of corporations. Corporations have set up the easels, bought the pigments, arranged the views, and hired the potential artists. Somehow, although our poets have not yet defined it for us, a corporation lives a life and finds a fate outside the lives and fates of its human constituents. Women directors have been overlooked far too long, including iconic figures such as Ida Lupino. Slash Film answered that need by publishing their list of female auteurs, ranging from early directors such as Alice Guy Blanche, Lois Weber, Frances Marion, and Dorothy Arzner, to contemporary filmmakers such as Jane Campion, Catherine Bigelow, and Chloe Zhao. Recent events have shrouded another model of the auteur as defined by Matthew Bernstein, the producer as auteur. Despite the unexpected release of low-budget films such as The Blair Witch Project, Mad Max, and Eraserhead, money is the main obstacle in getting any film made. Quoting Andrew Sarris, Bernstein says that the auteur's success would not be worth bothering with without their almost miraculous ability to extract funds from this money-oriented environment. If any one individual could be said to embody that impersonality, those barriers, that money-oriented environment, it was the film producer. Actors themselves have been designated auteurs in certain circumstances. In the midst of the powerful studio system, Cary Grant used his wide popularity to exclude himself from the restraints of that system. As described by Tim Ryan in his review of Cary Grant, The Making of a Hollywood Legend, Grant demanded story approval during his 1936 contract negotiation, which Paramount had Adolph Zukor refused. So Grant took on a new agent, telling him that the studio executives were no longer going to rule his career. This was a bold step, and only someone of Grant's stature could have pulled it off at that time. Also, at the height of his popularity, Marlon Brando became the auteur of his own career, taking on 5 epic roles in quick succession: The Men in 1950, A Streetcar Named Desire in 1951, Viva Zapata in 1952, Julius Caesar in 1953, and The Wild One, also in 1953. Up to this point, we've been examining auteur figures who preceded the use of the term auteur. The past is prologue, of course, and as one might expect, Sarris's theory met with mixed scorn and applause when first announced. Sarris might have expected some pushback against his broad theory of the auteur, but he never expected the vigorous opposition from Pauline Kael, a film critic from California. The epic contest between Sarris and Kael remade film criticism. Roberts wrote, Andrew Sarris and Pauline Kael battled for the souls of the young, and preferring Godard to Truffaut, or vice versa, was a way of announcing who you were. Sarris and Kael were polar opposites in almost every way. Sarris was a New Yorker and wrote for Film Culture and The Village Voice. Kael attended Berkeley, writing for the university, as well as San Francisco Public Radio and other various journals. She was fired from McCall's after an unpopular review wherein she blasted The Sound of Music as a sugar-coated lie that some people seem to want to eat. Kael later published I Lost It at the Movies, a volume of her reviews. Sarris panned her collection as an attack on film criticism, while Kael feared that an academic approach to criticism would become another piece of academic study and appreciation, which would soon be an object of excitement only to practitioners of the fine art. In the end, I think Kael's naturalistic writing was the voice of the future, while Sarris's auteur theory provided a much narrower approach to film criticism. Not everyone has the iconic style of Wes Anderson or Stanley Kubrick, yet their works may still have merit and are worthy of discussion. Aaron Hunter argues for a multiple authorship approach to film criticism, with a fuller analysis of the contribution that casts and crews make on the authorship of a film. Sarris himself stepped away slightly from the origins of his auteur theory, writing that he would be the first to admit that much of Cahir's has always been elliptical, elusive, esoteric, and even downright obscure. Auteurism's focus on directors dismissed the collaborative effort required for any successful production. Sarris brought a tongue-in-cheek reality to the nature of filmmaking, saying that nowadays it is possible to become a director without knowing too much about the technical side, even the crucial functions of photography and editing. An expert production crew could probably cover up for a chimpanzee in the director's chair. How do you tell the genuine director from the quasi-chimpanzee? Thank you for watching my presentation on auteurism. Please leave a note or any comments you might have. I'd appreciate your feedback. Thank you.